Mr. and Mrs. Investor, welcome back to the show of investing in Africa's corporate giants. And in this show today, we'll be looking at Safaricom. What do you need to know before you actually buy one of the shares of Safaricom? We'll be looking at 6 main factors so that you can finally categorize it. Is it among the best companies that are out there, or is it just simply don't invest in it? This is the tier list that we'll be basically using from S tier all the way to D tier, where S tier is an exceptional stock, A plus, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier just to avoid. So where does it belong? And we'll be using specifically 6 metrics just to try and analyze it. We'll be looking at the margin of safety, dividend yield, among all the others, and I'll break them down 1 point at a time. So on the first item, the margin of safety of Safaricom. What is its actual true value? When we look at the cash flows of Safaricom, what it's gotten so far, the future cash flows discounted to today as compared to the actual current price on the stock exchange. If we are to compare the two, there is a margin that exists, and that margin of safety, the bigger it is, then the better that company is. In Safaricom's case, that is approximately, there was not that big of a margin, about 9%. That means it's okay, but it could do better. So the value that we estimate it's worth compared to the actual value in the stock market, if that value was bigger, that difference was bigger, then would have given it higher points. But in this case, we'll just give it a solid 6. When it comes now to dividend yield, what is the return that it's actually giving as compared to the market price that it is priced at in the stock exchange? Currently, that is at around 6.74%, which is fairly good compared to other companies. And as a result, I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10 for the dividend yield. The next factor to consider is the price to book ratio. What is the actual price of the total stock in this Nairobi Stock Exchange compared to the equity or the stocks or the book value of Safaricom that it currently has? When you compare the two ratios, a better ratio is one that is fairly lower, but in this case, Safaricom was scoring at 2.12, a ratio of 2.12, and an ideal ratio for that is 1.5. And as a result, because it is slightly higher, it's pretty much like paying extra for premium packaging. It's really not worthwhile. In that aspect, I would also give it another 6 out of 10. Then we also have the price to earnings ratio. We basically want a price to earnings ratio that is as low as possible, because that will mean that this stock is undervalued in the stock exchange. And that's what we are looking for. Is Safaricom actually undervalued? And we want to go for the pretty much undervalued stocks because they are valuable and they will increase in value based on the calculations that we have. And in this case, it's going at around 8.48 for that price to earnings ratio, which is comparatively good as compared to 15 or 20, meaning that the pricing is not so bad. Therefore, I give it a good 10 out of 10 on the price to earnings ratio. On another factor, the dividend history, excellent, scoring 10 out of 10 because it has been paying dividends for over 10 years now. And finally, we have financial stability. Financial stability is where we look at what is the actual debt that this company has, and can the equity that it has, the share capital that this company have, that is it adequate enough to actually pay off the debts? And in this case, you're able to see that that is the actual case. So the debt to equity ratio of 0.42, meaning that it can be able to pay all its debts and twice again using the equity that it has. That is a good sign of financial stability, 9 out of 10 points. And then finally, for the total score, we give it a 50 out of 60 for all the points that it has actually scored. And that is excellent, which actually now results into a final tally of going all the way to the A tier. That for the S tier, those are companies above 50 points, but Safaricom, having scored a good 50 out of 60, will give it an A tier rating. And that, folks, is pretty much my analysis of the Safaricom stock. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Hit a like. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like more of this. Next video I'll be analyzing KCB to also take it through the same metrics. And remember to subscribe and share this with a friend. See you next time.